Anyway. Hello! Welcome! This video is going to be showing the process of making a mixed media illustration. I'm also going to include a bit of behind the scenes, showing me having an existential crisis. Let me start by saying that I've already made 2 illustrations very similar to this 2 days before. Both of them had no sketch underneath. I just freehanded them all the way, and that didn't really work out the way I wanted it to. So this time I decided to use a sketch underneath. I wanted to do a side profile, and overall I wanted that sculpture vibe. I wanted to share something different than in my last video. I wanted to talk a bit about what is actually going on behind the scenes, because I know for myself that a lot of the times when I watch speed paints, I kind of get into that mindset that people are always very confident in what they are doing and there are no obstacles in their way, and they just sit down, draw what they want to draw. The process is very smooth. And I think that a lot of the times it's probably not true. And when I was watching what I edited for this video, I realized that the process of making this illustration seemed like it was like this. Well, it wasn't the case at all. Actually, I struggled a lot with doing the previous illustrations. I was terribly scared, and maybe you think maybe that's too dramatic, and maybe it's silly to say that. I was terribly scared, but when I sat down to do that big illustration with multiple faces, I couldn't really believe myself. Like, why am I scared of doing something that I actually love to do and that is always very fun to do, and there is no pressure? Okay, so when I finished the watercolor base, I knew I wanted to go in with colored pencils, but shit, I tell you, I was sitting there. I was so scared. I was scared I was going to ruin something that wasn't even that good. Like, seriously, Sophie. And that is why I decided to just So I got out my colored pencils and just started doing my own thing. I don't really plan before going in with colored pencils, and maybe that is also why I am always so scared of just drawing over something that is already painted. But yeah, I just never go with a plan in mind, and I don't really even think about the colors I'm using. I just kind of went with what my hands told me to go with, if that even makes sense. I'm very curious if you also have those moments where you don't even think about what you are doing, and yet it somehow comes out quite nicely, and the end result is actually very good. Besides talking about my experiences with being scared, I also wanted to touch a bit on the technical side of things. Faber-Castell's polychromos are incredibly easy to work with. The pigment is just gorgeous, but for very light areas, I always use Derwent's Coloursoft. They work a bit differently. I think they are even more oily, and that is why they tend to stack up on top of other colored pencils. By the way, if you would like to support my work, please like this video, maybe leave a comment, and consider subscribing to my channel. YouTube algorithm likes it when you do those things, and it supports my channel and helps me to grow, so thank you. Okay, so a main tip for using colored pencils is layers. layers upon layers and layers and layers. Layers are key. Of course, that is my preference when it comes to drawing. I really like to render out like smooth transitions and just blend everything together. Layering those pencils, gosh, it's so fun. And using the Derwent ones actually helps. As I said, I think they are more oily than the Faber-Castell ones, and they tend to blend even better. So I kind of use the neutral like whites and pale pinks as basically blending sticks. Another thing would be using a base like watercolors or gouache or even acrylics. And I never really like to go into drawing anything without something underneath. I don't know, it's just a thing I've always had. It was very difficult to focus for me and very intimidating to just work with a blank piece of paper. I think I also like having that base layer of color, because even when you have the smoothest paper and the most oily crayons, they always tend to just not go into every crevice of the paper and leave that tiny texture behind. I personally like to just smooth out everything, having a base layer underneath. Those crevices I was talking about are always filled with paint, so those tiny dots of white paper aren't visible. I think it actually helps with achieving that sculpture vibe that I'm almost always going for in my illustrations. Also, use good paper. If you can, don't save money and use bad paper, because honestly, if you are using watercolors or gouache, there are so many smaller illustrations I did, and they look so bad, you know? It's not even like you can smooth out everything digitally to put like on Instagram or make prints out of it, but really seeing such an illustration in real life and seeing how the paper is just wavy, it's just, I don't know, it's a turn off for me, really. And it also is important for layering colored pencils, because worse papers tend to almost like dissolve. At some point, the pigment starts to erase itself when you put another layer onto the paper. So if you have an extra penny and want to invest into something, good paper is a place to go, really. Good paper changes a lot. I really like this illustration, you know? It's not perfect. It doesn't have to be. I think I know what I would like to do next thanks to this illustration. I still like the side profile with the double chin and with those like wooden hair type of thing. Yeah, the nose is kind of off, I think. It's a little bit too organic for my taste. I like the illustration, but I'm even more proud of the fact that I just pushed through and didn't let my negative thoughts get to me and stop me from really having fun and growing, you know? I feel silly saying all of that stuff, but even if one person can relate to this and not feel so alone, it's really more than enough for me. I hope you enjoyed. It was fun. I like her. Consider leaving a like, comment, and maybe subscribe. It helps to support my channel. Thank you, and see you next time.